I'm Kevin Doran, and I am a Canadian musician. I was in the US on vacation, and after seeing the depth of music's reach within American culture in small towns and cities, blues, bluegrass, jazz, country, all the genres that were born on US soil and now have infected the whole world. So what does it mean to be a Canadian musician? There's so much identity, popular history hailing from somewhere like England or France or Germany or Asia or America, but I feel like in my lifetime, Canadian music is finally building definitive characteristics of its own, and I want to find out what those definitive characteristics are. In this new world, with all of the opportunity available to us to just create endlessly, with a Macintosh laptop, it's really awesome, but at the same time, too much opportunity and too much choice means you don't play your guitar. And I don't know if my heroes of old, when I grew up in the 90s, if they were distracted by other things, but there's just no way growing up with the internet that they were multi-dimensionally capable in the way that indie artists of today are. And I often wonder, is there people out there who are just not getting heard because they don't fit into this paradigm?
That's the truth. That's what you do. You heard.
This is Doug Bond, my better half's father. He plays guitar. After jamming with Doug and hearing him span the genres of traditional American music, I began to really hear how he can just lean into what we call rock and roll. His country's toolbox of tricks is massive, and it made me think, if the US has Americana music, is there Canadiana music? And what does it sound like? In the words of the great Bruce Lee, balance your thoughts with action. If you spend too much time thinking about a thing, you'll never get it done. I had an epiphany. Why not travel as much of this country as I can, meeting Canadian musicians and friends, and get it from the source? What is Canadian music? Taking a cue from one of my favorite musicians, I pawned my electric guitar and my amp, and I used the money to pay for the rest of a ticket to Toronto, which was the farthest that I could get. Welcome to the adventure.
I'm sorry, my friend, that you see second place. There just never was a never was a race. Being simple has simple consequence, and we're not gonna pay, 'cause you've been sitting on a fence. So I will help you, though you stand in my way, 'cause I have been there and decided to stay against the better of my judgment today. I will help you, though you stand in my way, though you stand in my...
I wanted to start off the film by talking with my friend Scott Giffen. He's an extremely talented guitar player, producer, and engineer, and we both went to school together at the Metalworks Institute in Mississauga. When we returned back to Calgary, Scott started out playing in a band and ended up inviting me to help manage the act.
I think, in general, Canada is just like a very proud country of what it puts out, whether it's music or any part of the entertainment.
And whatever we're able to give to the international community.
Right.
Because like you said, some of it doesn't ever get to the international community.
Yeah, it's like, I think, whether it's Canada, the United States, or anywhere around the world, you've got some very, very talented musicians, songwriters, and groups that will never be able to be heard because they either don't have the resources or the right people haven't heard them.
There's definitely one place in Canada with the right resources and the right people to fund and develop new music. So I'm headed to Toronto, where I'm going to talk to some of my friends who fill the jobs of the artist's team.
So here's the situation. I get off the plane in Toronto. They didn't let me take my Mini Martin guitar as carry-on onto the Air Canada flight. So it didn't make the flight, and none of the oversized baggage apparently has made it, because there's guys with some golf clubs here.
I was frustrated because I wanted to play guitar, but it was okay because I was on my way to Jules Lynch's house, and Jules has plenty of guitars. He owns Studio 155 and Just Real Entertainment, and he's been doing grant writing in Canada for years. Now, Jules is a songwriter, a producer, a businessman. He does pretty much everything, and if there is somebody who makes music in Toronto, they definitely know Jules. On the way into Studio 155, I see Jackson Feist. Jackson manages the act NGFL. He's one of the first friends that I made when I lived in Toronto. Jackson has toured the world as tour support and met people that I only dream of meeting. He also has worked for a royalty collection agency and grant writing agency, and currently does his own royalty collections. Here is the big question of the day. What is Canadian music?
Canadian music is good tunes with no bullshit. Until you make it, then it's good tunes with a whole fuck ton of bullshit.
Two other quick questions for you. The first one is looking on the positive perspective here. What is it in your experience with Canadian music that actually makes you proud of specifically Canadians in music?
Oh, primarily that the States are copying us now, so that's always nice. Basically the Canadian indie scene is kind of the new pop sound, so that I'm really proud that we've kind of set the standard for what good music should sound like nowadays, at least on mainstream radio.
But let me flip the perspective now. If there was constructive criticism you've had as a creator and also as an industry person in Canada, what would it be to build our infrastructure here?
Better the copyright board, because right now it's too hard for creators to make money off of their creations, and for people to do adaptations of other people's creations, which is where things like every Disney movie you've ever seen came from. Anything that was big basically from the 30s to now that you've heard of from back in the day was because of people being able to adapt people's copyright. So until that can get changed, we're going to flounder, essentially.
Publishing is pretty much how you fund yourself as an artist nowadays, make a living, because everybody's fighting for the live income. So for publishing to happen, you have to really have somebody to represent you, to solicit your songs to TV and media and film. So how do you get somebody to solicit you? Well, you have to finance yourself. You have to finance the recording. You have to find somebody with good recordings, which isn't a problem. The technology is advancing every day and becoming more affordable. The problem becomes that there's a lot of really, really poor music out there that's just been underdeveloped and poorly recorded due to the system changing this way.
Jules, could you introduce yourself and tell us what you do in the Canadian music industry?
Hello, I'm Jules Lynch. I work as a multi-hat musician entrepreneur in an age of fleeting jobs and multiple creative options. I've built a really interesting new wave of business as a music consultant and a grant writer to help an avenue of artists to turn themselves into businesses.
Absolutely, man. It's awesome that you're doing business. Not everybody has the mind to do it.
Oh, I know. Well, it's not. I wouldn't say the mind as much as the heart. I learned pretty quickly on that it's a make it up as you go along business. And it's not as easy as to waiting for a Prince Charming or somebody to come through and be like, I see you for what you're trying to do, and put their time, energy, and today it's risk. For there's ample, I guess, opportunity for somebody to take a risk on a young artist, but today it's like you almost have to be conscious and aware of how the business works before you even navigate into any sort of negotiation situation. I mean, how do you? It's tough, so it was a necessity. I would say it's like I had to learn about my business. It's something that I wanted to make music the rest of my life, and nobody was going to give that to me. So it was up to me to learn about it and figure it out. And
so, Jules, where do you get most of the funding for your project?
Well, for my projects, well, I mean, as a grant writer, I've been able to definitely leverage a lot of the skills that I've picked up over the last few years to learn about the systems and learn that it's a really interesting and almost I call it the crapshoot in many ways. If you're a young budding artist, to get money from a grant source can be a long shot for someone who may not know how to navigate the little barriers. But once you kind of break it all down, you recognize it's just based on your activity. And I would say that at most, the best I've ever seen any company work is about 40% of their income would have been grant related.
What is Canadian music to you?
It's young. And what I'm seeing coming up as Canadian music is just Canadians adapting to the world of music and doing it in a way that there isn't a built-in infrastructure that is perverting it, both good and bad. A lot of super talented people today don't have the access of a machine that could put out their work if it really was at the point where that it should be recognized, and so that can be dangerous on one level. But on another level, it makes people get better. Up here you have to be better than good. Everybody's good. Having a good song in Toronto, well, it means you get a pat on the back from your friends. It's a bit of a hard city like that, but that kind of allows you to go back to the drawing board and get better and tighter. And once you bring that around the world and you start traveling and seeing the world of music, you realize that we are incredibly competitive, but nobody's up here to tell us that, and it's hard for us to recognize that what we're doing has value when everything seems so screwed.
Make our own rules.
All right, we're rolling.
In a very Canadian way, I think that it's thoughtful. Even our pop music, look at Carly Rae Jepsen. Call Me Maybe. That was written by what's the name of the guy who wrote that? He's from Mariana's Trench.
Oh yeah.
Josh Ramsey. That's an intelligent song.
She wrote that song.
She wrote it?
Yeah,
okay,
he produced
so,
it.
Okay, so she wrote that song. That's a thoughtful song. You look, you watch the music video, and there's another plot to it. There's another story that's being told. I think that our music is. I think that as Canadians, we're thoughtful, aware, both globally and locally, the group of people, and I think that comes out in our music. I think it's expressed in our music.
Canada has been the home and birthplace to international superstars like
Bryan Adams, Shania Twain, Justin Bieber, Avril Lavigne, Nelly Furtado, Matthew Good, Jeff Healey, Colin James, Kanon, Chaos, Diana Krall, Metric, Celine Dion, Arcade Fire, Feist, Paul Anka, Bahamas, Michael Bublé, Chantal Krebiazic, Triumph, Bob Ezrin, Gordon Lightfoot, Our Lady Peace, Sarah McLachlan, Oscar Peterson, Tegan and Sarah, Ron Sexsmith, Leonard Cohen.
And that's just people who aren't mentioned elsewhere in the film that I dig.
We fight for our lives 'cause the love never dies, but no one lives forever. Don't believe it's the end, but I'm getting the sense that you do. We fight for our lives 'cause the love never dies, but no one lives forever. Don't believe it's the end, but I'm getting the sense that you do.
We were born electric.
From Toronto. That's uncommon, man. Do you think many people are born electric, or is it just you?
Nope, it's just us.
All of us.
Yeah, all of us were born.
Sick. All right. Well, we'll start off with the first question. What is Canadian music?
It's untapped. It's only becoming bigger now. It's been kind of the smaller bastard.
Now, do you mean that on a national level or a global level?
National. North American, Western side, I guess.
Rainer, what do you have to say?
I don't like the first thing that comes to mind when I think about Canadian music is like how well Canadians do in the American market, which is sort of what we bank on after, like the difference between a Canadian artist and a Canadian artist that made it in the States,
Yeah, and the perception that maybe they're American by the rest of the world.
Yeah, and it's almost like sometimes when you put that label, the States don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like tragically hip, proud to be Canadian.
Yeah.
Like maybe a bit popular in Europe and the States, not what they are here.
After watching so many amazing musicians playing their music on the streets of Toronto, I went back to Studio 155 and watched some of Jules' friends perform some of their own songs. This is Seth. He's good. Zack, he's an artist rep for Indie Pool, as well as being the head of the 100 Faces group.
Hey, my darling child, you will see. Days been changing, and I lost the sea. And in your eyes, empty warning, I seem to be asking your pleasure, but your victory said it's all in you that I never see. You know every way to every night, and all I can say is this love never strays to you.
There's something not cool about the Canadian music industry. I think that's the biggest problem, right? I mean, we all look at, okay,
That's actually really true.
like the biggest, you know, you do a red carpet, for instance. Everyone is thinking Canadian music, say the Junos, right? We all want to meet Jim Cuddy. We all want to meet, Neil Young, like people like that. But we're not looking forward to meeting the younger Canadian stars as much.
I think Drake may be one of the first ones who has a little bit of swagger, and he's entertaining to watch, right?
Yeah.
But he's also a television star, and that's one of the things we're talking about with a lot of people here, is that the people from Canada who are breaking through now, Justin Bieber's a great example, their talent is multi-dimensional.
Yes.
And that's why they're able to break through. And if you just make great music, can great music still get out
Can it
when
survive?
there's so much music that is not professional yet out there covering it up with better marketing?
Yes, exactly.
You got better marketing, you do social media,
Right. Yeah, I mean,
That's a
it is
big
all about,
thing.
that's a really good point. I like that. I mean, yeah, like, can you survive with just your music if you're a Canadian band and be proud of it? And
I hope so.
oh man, I think there is something about that whole being proud of our music industry. It's really hard for me.
What do you guys think Canadian music is? What is Canadian music to you?
I think Canadian music is about Canadian artists trying to send out a message to the rest of Canada and to the rest of the world.
I got a feeling you don't know me as well as you think you do, and that's alright, 'cause if you did, you might run for your life. And if
Yeah, and I find they're really good with acoustic music as well. Like, I wish that more people kind of knew about more Canadian artists, because I feel like they're very good with acoustic music.
Do you guys know Joel Plaskett?
I've heard the name, but I haven't heard
That's somebody that could be cool to check out. All right, introduce yourself, man. Who are you?
AKA Prince Caspian, AKA DCF. Toronto is where I'm from. And it's a struggle, man. Like, it's hard to make it in Toronto. So, like, the grind that we experience, I feel like, is one of a kind. And I feel like it really pushes artists to become better. AKA Canadian music is like, it's like the next level. So it's like, it's what you're doing in other countries, but it's like we've had to struggle at it and develop it longer than you did.
What are some of those struggles?
It's just like the finances aren't there, for one. Like the major labels don't have the budgets that they do in the States, and that's okay. Like, we have Factor, and we have Canadian Arts Council stuff too. Touring potential is not as great as it is in like Europe, you know, where you can drive 4 hours and play 12 venues, you know.
Absolutely.
What was the question again?
What are you proud of?
What am I proud of?
Like, what do you see in other Canadian artists? Like, well, you've mentioned the struggle, obviously.
Yeah, the struggle's everything, for real though. Like, so, what am I proud of? I feel like it's what am I proud of myself? It's like, you have to figure it out. You have to figure out that it's not gonna happen for you if you don't do it all yourself. And then figuring out how to do it all yourself.
Sick.
You know, and it's like, that sounds hard, but it's like, it's not really. If you want to make music, and like, you know, you wake up and you realize that financially, if you want to do it forever, like, you got to do something different. You need a plan. You need a team. You need a plan. Like, I haven't had a plan ever. You know, I just release music because I love it, and like, that's great, and that's how people find you.
Who are you?
I'm Noel Johnson.
I caught Noel right as he's packing up from the set. So Noel, the question of the documentary is, what is Canadian music?
Canadian music, to me, means a select group of people from this great country that are able to basically stare adversity in the face and travel this massive country that has few and far between venues to play, and still somehow push through it and make a living at it. Okay, not make a living at it.
My name is Humphrey Stephen, also known as Brooklyn Joseph. I'm a brand and image consultant for the Noir Star, and on my left,
Timothy Eccles, aka CEO Tim, founder of many different music labels, film, television, production stuff, business consultant, just all around trying to be a cultural influencer.
All right, so we were talking about whether music now is being made, or the best art is being recognized, you know, because there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline. You know, and if we don't have enough infrastructure, what does that mean? Does that mean that there's art just dropping off the pile, or is it still in zeros and ones in the internet somewhere and it'll be found again? You know?
So, So I think great art is being made now, but I think you do need the infrastructure to allow it to get out and kind of let the artists focus on the art so they can make the best art that they can make, and then let your business manager kind of handle, you know, endorsement deals and this and that. Let your personal manager kind of book your schedule and book your studio sessions. Have your brand specialist kind of, you know, help you arrange what your brand's going to be, your demographic, your niche markets, all that kind of stuff, right? So you need all those kind of components to allow you to focus on making the best art you can make.
So how good do you have to be to just make your art and draw in that many people?
So you have to be amazing. You
Yeah.
have to believe in your art, believe in your talent. It's going to help you out just based on how talented and how artistic and how groundbreaking, how influential you are, kind of thing, right? So, but I think there are a lot of artists that are doing that now. You have loyal people around that have those core skill sets to help them get this timeless, you know, incredible art to the world.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
We need more people like you, bro.
Like us.
Like us,
People
yeah.
like us.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's why we're meeting right now.
Exactly,
That's
right?
it.
Meeting of the minds, right?
That's
People
it.
like us, right?
Yeah,
So-
together.
But I think the difference that has become within this industry is no longer do people realize the value of an actual manager. People go, oh, my friend can be my manager. Not knowing that it actually takes some kind of knowledge of what is going on in the industry to become a manager.
Exactly.
I mean, I've done the manager thing, and I didn't like it because it was like, nowadays an artist feel like they need to be hands-on with everything, right? If you play in any sport, you don't tell the coach what play to run until you've gotten to the point where you and the coach have been in the league for so long that you can actually say to the coach, I've been around a little bit, how about we try this?
Yeah.
But until when you just started off and no one knows you and you know one, listen to the people around you because you're thinking you know what's going on. It's like playing checkers here, chess here, poker here, and something else. You're gonna lose focus. Something's gonna have to give, and most of the time it's gonna be a music because you're focused on everything else but what you need to be focused on. Because as the artist, all you need to care about is the art. The business side of it, you don't need to worry about. As long as you're getting your check and you're making your money, you should be happy. After that, if you have your hand in it too much, then everything falls off. And then the thing that's supposed to make you money is not making you money. Because you're worried about everything else.
Because your art's not good enough and it's covered up by marketing.
Yeah. Also, the big piece of it, that's the core of it, right? Like, you have to make sure, if you do an incredible, you can't deny undeniably great things, right? You can't. If you make it undeniably incredible, it can't be denied, right? That's the motto of all artists. Make this undeniably incredible music, then you can't be denied.
But if I believe in what you're doing as a person, then I'm gonna be like, okay, you know, I believe in you, I believe in this cause, let's go.
Yeah, that's what they said. It's like never manage someone who can't manage themselves, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and that's
the question I want to get to. Sorry to interject you guys, man, but Drew, say that again for me.
Hey, never manage anything you can't manage themselves, right?
Okay, now that being said, I started off the question with, is great art getting dropped off just because it doesn't fit the mold now? Now, the mold, from what we all just talked about, is that you have to be capable of choosing the right people. You have to be capable of being in the right place. You have to be capable of going to the right venues. You have to have some social skills.
You gotta be a good human.
To be a great artist, you have to train, right? So you have to be trained in all these different facets to be a great artist, right? So you have to understand, you know, public speaking. You have to understand being socially conscious. You have to understand being even politically conscious. Understand being, you know, what else? Like even being culturally viable in whatever you're saying in your music, and kind of being held accountable for what you're gonna say, because it's way larger now than just being artist in your house or at your friend's house recording. Once you make that decision to become a professional artist, to bring it to the masses, to the world, you have a huge, like a way larger responsibility now. And artists need to understand that as well. I think they don't always understand. I want to be a big artist. I want to get it to the world. But once you make a decision, it's a different ballgame.
If you want to make it to superstardom, you got to start with super fans, and one of mine is Terry D. Lane. She started TDL Music and has helped many a startup Canadian artist. She hooked me up with her friends PhD Radio, and I called into them as I went across the country. She also hooked me up with a burger and a beer on the way out of Toronto.
All right, so I am just about to leave Toronto, and I got a ride here with my man Mickey, who I picked up on rideshare. What's up with his beautiful ride? And we're going to be on our way to Sudbury, Ontario, one of the most exciting places in Ontario.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we got one more person we were waiting for, and then we'll be on our way.
Mickey McIntosh.
And Andrew Jansen.
Well, thank you guys for being my vehicle out of the retardedly populated center of Canada, which I did enjoy, but I'm happy to be gone from. So, make a move!
Attached to shooting stars, flicker out faster than they start. Comments that rip at who you are comments that ain't threat to earth no more. You wanna find perfect. Tell me if it's worth it. You get what you wanted, or are you still looking? And you are falling from grace.
So we've almost made it to Sudbury.
Moments that play in my memory, just like a bittersweet melody. Moments I pray will never leave. Played over.
What is Canadian music?
What is Canadian music? For me, I guess the best example of actual just Canadian music and not necessarily Canadian rock music would actually have to be Stomping Tom.
Totally, yeah.
Because, like, of all the stuff we've produced, he's probably the only thing that is actually and consistently, unapologetically very Canadian.
Yeah, it's he just passed away too, which is unfortunate.
Yes, that was unfortunate.
Yeah, we were talking about the Junos. You mentioned that he gave his Junos back.
He gave back all his Junos and refused to be included in the in their memorial service, or they're like no longer with us this year's section, which I thought was really cool because, you know, just so many people leave and feel like they have to go to the U.S. and make compromises for their music, which I understand. They do it to appeal to a wider audience. Like, you just have so much cultural resonance always already built in with singing about America. But, you know, he unapologetically sung about, like, Northern Ontario nowhere towns that have 500 people.
I partied Sudbury style for a couple days. Before I left, I interviewed Mickey's sister, Megan. What is Canadian music?
I don't know, man. It's probably, that's an interesting question because we feel this need to, like, I don't know, specify our nation state of, oh, I shouldn't have said that. But, you know, like, we need to specify our culture by
I think that's bang
all
on.
these things. And, like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of times that can get in the way of Canadian artists with the need to, like, be Canadian and have a Canadian sound. It gets, I mean, I don't listen to a lot of Canadian music.
Now, why is that, do you think?
I mean, I liked country growing up.
Yeah.
So, for starters, there's like, I think there was, like, Paul Brandt.
Who's incredible. I'm a huge fan of his.
Yeah, and, like, Corblund.
All right, so here I am, just outside Sudbury. Got my thumb out, waiting for a ride. Left my water bottle in Mickey's car, even though he made sure to instruct me not to leave my water bottle. So I'm really hoping somebody's gonna be generous and pick me up so I can hydrate myself. I just got my first ride with Dennis.
Hey, how you doing?
Dennis, thank you so much. I'm gonna ask you a quick question here. This is the question I'm asking everybody. What do you think Canadian music is? What's Canadian music to you?
I think Canadian music is usually from the soul. It seems everyone seems to have you put their own stuff into it, but it always seems to come down to kind of Canadian attitude and kind of the way people are in our land. So
Yeah,
it's a little different.
The kind of people who pick up hitchhikers on the side of the road,
exactly.
Exactly.
Friendly people.
Friendly people. Yeah. What's something that makes you proud of, like, Canadian artists? Or is there any Canadian artists you've been proud of, like?
Paul Burton Cummins is probably my favorite.
Absolutely, man.
I mean, so diverse.
Rock and roll.
And live through not like in the States where they just seem to live for about 12 years and then you don't find them again. It just sounds so good. He sounds great now.
It's that slow burning paper cup stung me again. Distract me with the setting sun, and I will pretend to pay attention to you. My mind straying again. I belong to another. She's pulling me in. Oh, the further I go, more that I find that I miss the burning. Oh, you're burning to the back of my mind.
When I arrived at Sault Ste. Marie, I went to the very first music store and I met Lindsay Pugh. I played in Sault Ste. Marie once before with the band Sidney York, and I knew that this town was famous for making ridiculously good guitar players.
Found my way to the Sioux. I didn't know they had the soul in her fingers too. She just keep traveling on. Never know what you run into.
That was some good shit.
My name is Lindsay Pugh, and I'm a musician and teacher here in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. And I've been back in the Sioux since 2002.
What is Canadian music?
Canadian music, it's blues, it's country, it's rock and roll. I mean, it's like so diverse, I guess. It's not pigeonholed into anything, because it seems no matter where you go, it seems like someone's got kind of a new twist on an old idea kind of thing. I always thought with Canadian stuff, it just seems a little, maybe not. Well, there's obviously exceptions to the rule, but not necessarily going for the commercial, prize. Some people just do music because they love to do music, and it's not really about getting that top 10 hit. I mean, that's maybe because that's how I kind of approach things. It's like I just love to play, and I'm really not concerned if a song I write is going to be a hit.
Yeah.
It's like, I like it, my friends like it, I played it live, those people seem to like it. There you go.
That's how hits are made.
Yeah.
I think. Is there anything you could pick out that you're really proud of Canadian musicians internationally or just locally?
Well, the one thing that really inspired me years ago was reading about the band. I knew about the band, but didn't really know like the whole story behind them. And then finding out that like Rick Danko and Richard Manuel and Robbie Robertson and Garth Hudson were all from Southern Ontario and got kind of recruited to play all the chicken joints and the juke joints in the States with Ronnie Hawkins. And the fact that they made such a huge impact on music in the U.S. and Canada, those guys were like my idols to inspire me, because I played in the States for a while too. And it's just that whole kind of cool thing about being the Canadian person in the States, because you know so much about American music because you're inundated with it up here. But I did a lot of reading about the blues and everything like that too, so it's kind of cool to be down there and experience it.
After my very first successful location recording, some guys had heard me playing from across the water, and when I came up from the beach, they were waiting there with a guitar.
Well, I'll just get you to introduce yourself, man.
I am Chase James Wigmore.
And Chase, you obviously play guitar, man. You play any other instruments?
Yeah, banjo, bass guitar, violin kind of suck. Keyboard, electronic devices, basically anything.
Sick.
Played on a printer once.
Well, I'm going across the country and I'm just asking everybody the same question, like, what do you think Canadian music is?
I always think of the newfie shit, like all the Celtic kind of sounding stuff. But I always look back on like the greats like Rush and Neil Young or Stompin' Tom.
Yeah, man, too bad he's
You
gone.
don't get more Canadian than that. What?
My grandma dated Stompin' Tom.
All right, so I got one more question for you.
All right.
In your experience playing music and listening to music, growing up on Canadian music, is there anything we could do as a country to like improve our infrastructure so the people who are good at their instruments are actually getting heard?
Support locally. But it's kind of hard now. Everybody download music. It's like post-scarcity now.
Good to go.
My baby's ugly, my family's underfed, my paycheck can't even afford to die. My head is pounding, my wife is such a and wait for next attempt at suicide. Hey, down at the car at me. Hey, generous to say Marie. My family's annoying, and the drugs they cost too much to keep the food on the table in the town to St. Marie. You think I'm whining? Well, you better start a roofing because the day I'm at board of my joints to scenery.
I find it fitting as we cross the Canadian plains for Sidney York to be the soundtrack. Sidney York was the first band that I got to tour Canada with, and they have been back and forth and back and forth ever since. Oh, and my dog Rue has been pooping in my girlfriend's purse, so I'm gonna have to skip Saskatoon and Winnipeg and go straight to Calgary. I don't have a layover here in Winnipeg, and we passed the Burton Cummings Theatre, countless music stores. I really wanted to go down to the Forks here because there's incredible busking down there by the river. So I guess I'll just have to come back because Winnipeg is one hell of a cultural city. Introduce yourselves.
I'm Brandy, and this is Krista, and we're from Sidney York.
And what kind of music do you guys play?
We play indie, avant, nouveau, pop. we play pop music that's with weirdo instruments.
How long have you been doing it?
Sidney York started with myself playing as a solo singer-songwriter 5 years ago. But Krista and I have been together as the duo Sidney York for 2 years.
Which I think is awesome. So, okay, here's the question, the big question. What is Canadian music, or what is it to you?
I really realized what Canadian music was when I was studying overseas in Australia. I was doing my master's degree there, and I was so drawn to the fact that the Australian music community is so fiercely proud of their artists. And I think a big part of that is because of where they're situated on the globe, and they are partially isolated from the North American music scene. I think that has caused them to have this extreme pride. And I watched that, and it's what inspired me to start writing my own songs and to start playing pop music. It really made me want to go back to Canada because I wanted to be a part of that scene that I found there in Canada. And I mean, we have a lot of those same elements.
Yeah,
I mean,
we totally do.
We do, right?
Yeah, it's a really supportive scene.
It's true. And you know what it is? I mean, we were down at South by Southwest this year. It was our first American show, and that was a general theme. Like, when you meet Americans in the music scene, they always make a comment about how we have this funding available to us. And you know what, it's funny, and I've got to be honest, it's, as independent musicians, it's really hard because you can write as many grants as you want, and you can work really hard on it, and even still sometimes, it's, and a lot of the times the focus is on the team that you have, and so sometimes it does make it harder to get those grants. You can apply for, 100% of the grants that you apply for, you maybe get, 25% of them?
But still, that's 25% more than our American friends are getting.
Absolutely.
I see that love inside you. Take a piece of my heart and break it. Now the time is come and gone, but the memories only last for so long. If I were I'm gonna make you bleed. If I were If I were I'm gonna make you bleed. If I were.
Here we go.
Am I looking right in the camera?
You can look wherever you want. Whatever's clever, man. It's upside down.
I think the cool thing about Canadian music is that it's so regional. When you hear a song from the East Coast, you know that it's coming from the East Coast. When it's coming from the West Coast, you know. And when it has that prairie twang, you know that it's coming from Alberta or Saskatchewan. But at the same time, with this split in sound, there's this ultimate sense of unity and pride to be Canadian, and that people want to Canadian bands want to help Canadian bands. They want to make the Canadian scene thrive, and everybody's waiting for the next Canadian band.
Next up, we have an act comprised of two of Calgary's best rock and roll band leaders, from Brocade and Zoo Lion. Now you might ask, if these are two of Calgary's best rock and roll bands, what are they doing starting this act? Well, I think it's financially based. If you only have two people in an act in Canada, it is a lot easier to continue making music.
So I am late to go see Northern Beauties at Lolita's Lounge. Hopefully we haven't started yet.
And I'm stoned by the way you feel, you taste your touch. And I'm stoned by only love and grace and trust. And I'm stoned by the way you wear your hair up tight. And I'm stoned, I love you till I die. Call my name, I resign. I resign. And I'm stoned by the way your eyes you late at night. And I'm stoned by the way you smell, it takes me home. And I'm stoned by all the things you ever made. And I'm stoned to roll and bony like you said. Call my name, I resign. I resign.
There's like, I think Canadian music is, one thing I really love about Canadian music is you take an artist like Joel Plaskett. Joel Plaskett sounds like Canada, and I think that really is everywhere. It's harder to get it out there. There's less venues, longer distances, but I think there's a real identity to Canadian music. And I think that we're allowed to take more risks than, say, people in the United States, because there's less of an infrastructure. So there's kind of really not a lot of rules. You take someone like iconic, like Katie Lang. Katie Lang came out as a cowboy punk, soon to be out lesbian, who was doing everything completely
against the
wrong
grain for a while, yeah.
Right, totally wrong and different from how you're supposed to do it, especially in those times. And if it wasn't for the way we operate here, she would never have been able to develop that and make it flourish. So I think Canadian music is, you have to do it because you love it, but there really is a really proud, there's just such a great opportunity. Some of the biggest bands in the United States are Canadian.
Yeah.
Throughout history.
Yeah, absolutely. And perceived to be American.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've spent quite a bit of time in my life in the States, and that feels like such a divided country, such a red and blue states. From one part of the country to the next, it feels like an entirely different world. You feel safe in some places, you feel scared for your life in some places. It's so diverse. Whereas Canada, we have things that tie us together. I think the CBC is one of them. I've never been to Newfoundland, but I'm confident that I could show up there and have a similar experience that I do in Saskatoon or in Duncan, BC. So I think that gives us a sense of national identity and camaraderie. It gives us those artists and those broadcasts and those television shows and there's radio programs and, that we can share in common. It helps instill values in us that we can all share.
Everybody's got a brown-eyed girl, but mine's blonde and blue and prettier than you. Young love is so simple and sweet. Give it time and space and let it breathe, yeah. Gotta let it breathe. You're not soul, I'm wild at heart. So we dream how we dream and we drift apart, we do. Yeah, we do. Sometimes I feel so alone. Or maybe I could call you on the telephone. Sometimes I feel so depressed. Or maybe you could help me with my happiness. Or with my happiness.
To be said about, you know, the massive rise of mediocrity all over the place. Everybody's got a studio, everyone's got a guitar. We're a dime a dozen, us guitar players, you know. I don't know, like what, a lot of cool questions in that. It's intriguing to think of what do I think about the scene and where my thoughts came from. Like, you know, I've been doing this for a long time, at least I feel, you know, since I got a guitar, I was imagining songs, and once I learned to play them, that's all I've been doing, right? So it seems to me that there's got to be a point where you realize that the only one who's going to make it happen is you. So you'd better do everything you can do, the best it can be done, and always have something new to produce, always something new to get people's attention. You've got to, I don't know, man, I think a lot of people are really up against the idea that either you're not good enough, or if you are, you're never going to make it anyways. So it seems like the rock and roll thing or band or any sort of artistic endeavor turns into a hobby as opposed to an actual lifestyle.
Yeah, instead of rock and roll.
Yeah, like
it's like a tinge of rock and roll instead of rock and roll.
Yeah, like you rock well. But it seems like there's a lot of DIY stuff. It's doing like from Vancouver across to like I'm thinking like the Maritimes and Ontario and I mean like like there's pretty rich cultural heritage here for music. I mean Neil Young, come on.
Absolutely, yeah, man.
Is it one thing though? I don't know. I don't even know what I think of Canadian music. I'm just part of it, I guess.
So like I know you go out downtown Calgary a lot. You go out to see a lot of things. Is there anything like when you go out to see a band in particular? Is there anything in Calgary you think we could improve on?
Instead of going in and criticizing, people could go in with more of an open mind and you know. Check out different kinds of genres that are starting to pop out here in Calgary scene, and also like mix up the music. You know, not just stick with one genre. Like mix it up for everybody because a lot of people like different kinds of music.
I've been a musician for about 17 years. I've been playing drums and bass and guitar, so I know music pretty well in and out. A few of my favourite Canadian bands, Alexis on Fire for sure. Well, definitely one of your best exports. Obviously with City in Colour as well, bands like Monine, just some of the alternative bands in Canada. The quality is pretty good. I think that Canada definitely needs to kind of increase their festival rate, like how often they're having festivals and you know making the most and kind of getting the bigger names out there, not only in your own country but you know when they travel the world as well.
I just wanna feel better.
To leave for Vancouver. This is my ride right here, Matthias and Eric.
What is Canadian music? Wow, that's a loaded question. You can hit it from many angles. For me, it does hit from many angles because I've seen both sides of the fence. I've done the 12-hour drives for very little money and quote-unquote exposure for my bands. And I think that is the essence of Canadian music. It doesn't matter what genre you have. The one thing that I've gotten to know as a talent buyer over the years is that most of the bands do have that same look in their eye when you can tell when they've been on the road and they've seen the shit. They know exactly what's going on and what's happening, regardless of what level they're at, whether they're big bands or littler independent bands just struggling. It's about sacrifice is what it's about. I mean, you're sacrificing a lot to tour this country. Every show matters. Everything. Doesn't matter if there's 10 people in the audience or if there's 500 or 5,000. Every show matters to the musician. And that's, for the most part, that's what I get from it, is we're extremely passionate as a country as well as specifically speaking for musicians and independent acts in and around Canada. Touring is hell.
Absolutely, man.
For some reason, we keep going back, so there's got to be something good.
And as crazy as I know, as crazy as can be, I'm in love.
Late night, it never stops. Things slow down. I keep my eyes open, some of us drown. And I don't need your sunlight. Right now I am shining, lighting up the clouds. Beauty is a drug.
My role in the Canadian music industry is, it's kind of complicated. First, it started out as me being the buyer for the Starlight Room, and then it branched out to managing acts in and around Western Canada, and eventually branched out to my love for graphic design, helping out independent bands and independent acts, as well as manufacturing of CDs, working with independent companies.
So come down to the water with me. See our inversion reflecting the surface scene.
And creating this sort of web of one-stop shop that I basically become a broker for the bands to help them out. Because when I was on tour, that was what I desperately wanted and needed. So I vowed that if I ever got into that position, I would help out as well.
Last stop is Vancouver, British Columbia, the coast. It is gorgeous here. The last time I was here, I went to the Fortune Sound Club and heard and felt some of the best sound in my life. This time I encountered some of the best songwriters out of the blue, on the beaches, on the street. Everywhere there's people walking around with little amps plugged into their backpacks. Is there anything in your experience that we think you could educate maybe the fan base of Canada or the industry base to help build an infrastructure to continue to get the best Canadian music out there?
Well, I think we have to recognize that the entire industry has changed because of the internet, downloads, and we've seen all the record stores go out of business, and we've seen labels, major labels, contract incredibly, and a lot of layoffs. So there's been a lot of chaos in the music industry, especially on the recording side, and that's trickled down into the publishing side and, of course, the live side. And one of the key things about that is that there's not as much money for tour support. And because it used to be, of course, and this isn't that long ago, the record labels would fund a tour to get people to go to record stores to buy records.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's no record stores, so really artists are out there touring to make money, and the CDs are merchandise.
Yeah.
So the whole sort of paradigm has shifted and flipped. So we've got a whole new way of doing business. And so in terms of building the infrastructure and building our industry, we really have to look at the independent sector because that seems to be the real growth area, and empowering artists and up-and-coming industry people with knowledge, a lot more education on the business, a lot more funding at the grassroots level would really help, especially on things like online and touring initiatives, getting the bands out on the road. I mean, that's critical. If you're not a touring band, if you're not willing to get out and tour, you really don't have much of a chance. So we basically have, I'd say, that probably some of the hardiest artists in the world. It's just like Australian artists or other artists that have to tour mass areas. I mean, even in the States, while it's really big, you can make a career in, the Northeast or in California. You don't necessarily have to tour all over the States. Whereas in Canada, the hours between each big city, it's 15 hours. So yeah, I mean, it is also less money here for investment. So yeah, I'd say that there's a lot of adversity and struggle that's come out of being, a Canadian musician. And I think that makes us more resilient too, I think.
With my feet on the dashboard, it's nice to float away. All my worries will evaporate. You've got me on my knees again, despite things I've said to you, none of them would call Sometimes I get mixed up in the lies that I tell you. Isn't that what I meant to see? Isn't that what I watch all the others want to play the game. Everybody starts to look the same. Well, I was never taught to listen or how to look away. I'm told that I may always be this way. You've got me on my knees again, despite all of the things I've said to you. None of them will come out true. Isn't that what I meant to say?
Canadian music is rock and roll. Yes. I think that would be a great answer. I mean, my first concert was Rush.
Yeah.
When I was 7, and so I really like that progressive stuff. So when I think of Canadian music, I think of Rush. I think of Broken Social Scene. I also think of Ron Sexsmith and Rufus Wainwright. It's Canadian music is everything, really.
It's kind of an elite group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's so many special and influential artists that come out of this country. It's definitely a unique and special thing. I think it gets like a lot of the mainstream stuff can be I don't know, I find it at times difficult to listen to, but if you dig, you realize that Canada, there's just so much to offer here, you know? There's so much to offer here. So many different styles and voices, and yeah, it's beautiful. Movements, well, I think the Peak is doing an incredible thing with the Peak Performance Project and having that sort of start moving out into Alberta and everything. I've seen firsthand. I went with another band called Tough Lovers last year, and I saw firsthand, because I'd heard so much about it, what they do and everything. And it's so special, man. It's really cool, and I kept hearing that, and I didn't believe it until I went up there. But it's just it's 20 bands in these dorms with nothing else going on other than learning about music and playing music, and that, to me, shapes, so many incredible artists from especially this end of the country, and I really hope that continues outward.
Absolutely. My band did money through Harvard Broadcasting, X92 in Calgary,
cool.
right? And we were just given the money, which is great, in a way, but at the same time, hearing what you say about Peak, that's the next level. If you're going to give this band an opportunity, you should help them network and give them, some steps that they can just jump up onto,
I was lucky enough while I was in Vancouver to watch a green couch session get filmed. These guys do location recordings around Vancouver that are incredible, and they haul that hefty-ass couch everywhere they go. If you look on the back of the couch, you are guaranteed to read some of the names of the best contemporary indie musicians in Canada.
Tell me about the story of the flood. Tell me about the boat that sunk to the mud. Things are gonna change, don't you know? Not the kind of change you watch on a show. Where's my blue-black rose? Don't you hear all the beating drums? on the show. It's going na 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 na. Tell me about the fruit that you found. Did it take you so or just leave you on the ground? Things are gonna change, so they say. Not the kind of change you see every day. Where's my blue-black rose? Don't you hear all the beating drums? They're putting on a show. Oh, and it's going na 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 na.
I don't know, Canadian music is a bit of everything. That's what's so cool about it. I don't know, one reason I really like watching movies is indie movies. I feel like Canadian music is kind of like the same thing. It's like a lot of really cool indie sounds. It's just cool, man.
Absolutely.
It's kind of hard.
Because we're the best musicians in the world.
Yeah, buddy. Woo! Do that.
Your turn.
I don't know. I just think it's like a really, really big group of friends that like all get together. I just like.
That's cool.
I think about every time like I jammed with my old bands and stuff when I was like a kid and stuff, and every single person I've met like has had the same sort of vibe, and everyone I've ever jammed with in Canada, we've all like kind of been on the same page.
Right on.
Yeah.
Canadian music to me, I find, is not. There aren't so many bands out there that are actually overproduced and massively exposed, and so I think because you have so many artists giving themselves recognition and just have all these little cult followings, that you really hear a lot more emotion in it. It's raw, it's rugged, you know, it's real music.
Absolutely, yeah.
I find with a lot of Canadian music, it's all really individual and everyone likes to support it. It's a really tight community. Everyone I've ever met is happy to support everyone else's music, and yeah, it's just a great community and it's a great thing that everyone's putting out.
The guys from Green Couch Sessions dropped me off at my very last destination, to go see Rykka. I've met Rykka before in Calgary, when I was living at my brother's house, and I woke up 3 a.m. in the morning and heard Feist upstairs. And in the middle of my dream, I thought there's no possible way that my brother brought Feist home, so I went back to sleep. And I wake up in the morning, go have my Wheaties, and there is Rykka. She gave the best rock and roll show I have ever seen. In a stadium, in a club. You need to go see this girl.
Human, you are record breaker. My pride, my lover, my savior. Drown yourself in information and take what I am. Oh, when we gonna make everything better, everything okay, when we gonna change, standing on the
So what have we learned about Canadian music? Well, I think that any study of Canadian music is essentially a study of world music, because from east to west coast in Canada, there isn't really any sustaining tradition that I know of anybody I've talked to. And I think the tradition then is the mosaic of cultures. And I'm extremely proud of that, because when I grew up in Holland for 4 years, I went to an international school, and the Dutch kids, they told me it was cool to be Canadian because their parents had told them that Canadian soldiers had saved their grandparents, you know, in the First World War and the Second World War. But when I came back to Canada, I wanted to be American because all the American friends that I had, they had culture to share, and that was cool, you know. So after crossing this country, you know, for another time, all of the kindness that I have seen, the free rides, picking me up off the side of the road, giving me a place to stay, feeding me, giving me beer, you know, just to play guitar, I think we have something worth sharing. I think we have something worth sharing with the world. And I suggest that America became the powerful nation that it is today, not through military means exclusively, but mostly through culture. It shared its stories, and I think Canada has some stories worth sharing. So what can you do as a viewer, as a fan? I think you have to look at your value of music. There used to be a day when you didn't know if that record was at the store, if you could even get it. You'd line up and you'd hope, and that gave music value. And I think now, with an iPod or whatever you have that is full of choice, if you really want the best songs to be written, you have to support those artists. So go to their shows, purchase their t-shirts, give it back directly to them in every way you can, because if you don't give it directly to them, you're giving it to a company or a machine that has very little in the investment of that artist. They're mostly just taking advantage of that artist's will to always make music. I leave you on the beaches of Vancouver in a moment that I captured. I didn't expect to meet these guys. I certainly did not expect them to play the songs that they did. And they've been stuck in my head for the last couple of months. So to me, these guys are Canadian music. Unexpected, untapped, raw talent.
I will take my time to make sure she can see. Could she take my hand? Yeah, show me colors that I've never seen. Could she take me places that I've only dreamed? I'll be there for you. Yeah, if you're there for me, I'll be anything that you need me to be. A woman like you is too good for a man like me. But I won't let you down wherever you'll be. I'd write you a song, yeah, from the dusk till the dawn, until every word felt just like it belonged. I'd go off to war, even if I don't know who it is I'm killing for. I'd fight till I'm dead, knowing you're safe in your bed. I'd always be true, never lying to you. I'd let you look in my eyes, see through my disguise.
This has been a pretty successful day, man. I wasn't even gonna come talk to you guys.
The sun is shining all over the land, and on the mountains too. The ocean is wide, and the sky hides its smile. In midday November, 'twas a cold autumn morn when I wrote the news. Now I can't remember days without you. Whoa, come along, 'cause there's a new song playing, and I will give back something to it all. Is this the evening we make love again under the stars and sleep there together to wake up as friends? Bring me back to that warm summer's day when I was not blue, so I can remember the days without you, so I can remember the days without you. Breathful.
Oh, what is Canadian music? It's free. It's open. It's very romantic. That's all I can think about. I don't know, like the open roads, the Trans-Canada, the wide open spaces, the vast unpainted canvas that we have as a country. We also have as a scene and everything. And we haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg for what we are capable of. Yeah, Well, you know, I mean, you grow a lot of travel, and like you really have to push. You really have to want it because it costs a lot of money to drive out here and stay out here and stuff. Actually, one thing venues could do, especially in this town, that I would really appreciate is having a couple of parking spots for the guys who are coming through. That's like, I told them I would trade my drink tickets to like not have to pay for parking and worry about that. Because like, I mean, if you're coming through traffic and you're late for sound check, all you want to do is park your car in front of the venue and load in. You can't do that often. So that's too bad. Yeah, I don't know. And another thing too about opening venues in smaller places is then maybe bands that were, you know, you just started hearing on the radio that were just starting out would come through your hometown.
Yeah.
You could become a thing. I think that would be really important.
Absolutely, man. That was great. That was a lot of content. That's good, man. Thank you. You got my favorite interview.
Tell them, show them how it's done, and
I had no idea it was that cool.
Yeah, and having the support from other artists, I think, is the greatest thing that comes from it. Is the family that starts amongst all the bands that are in there. I think that's the most special thing about it, from my point of view. Anyway, it's just I made so many really, really close friends. I don't know. So like, I think the industry wants more. Obviously, they want more everything. They want more places to play, and they want, you know, just more music. I think what the struggle is, like, I come from a town about an hour out of here called Abbotsford, and we have no scene there, just because the city doesn't really support arts in any way. And any venue we've opened has been shut down and stuff, and there's so many talented bands that have come from that area that I think, you know, it's sort of weeded, like the lack of venues has sort of weeded the good, like, into the great, because they have to work so hard. Like, we always have to come out here and play or go somewhere else and stuff, and there's nowhere to sort of...
Yeah, you gotta live on the edge just
yeah,
to make
like, you just kind of jump right in, whereas I find a lot of smaller towns and other places, they have that scene where they grow up in, and, you know, it's been... I've found it's been, at least for me, quite a struggle, because I've been working alone, just because there's nothing going on out there, you know, and I think there should be, because there's lots of great musicians just hidden away in their basements, just waiting to play, you know, and I think that needs to be supported more than anything. So I don't know if that's an industry thing or if that's like a city thing. I don't know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You just like triggered all these neurons in my brain.
Yeah.
In Calgary, we had a similar thing. It's really developing now, where venues are opening up and they're staying open.
Yeah.
But previous to that, like, the scene was very closed.
Yeah.
And so a lot of bands that I'm proud of from Calgary or acts, I didn't know they were Calgarian because they had to leave. Like you're saying, you got to go to Vancouver, right?
Totally.
You know, which is a challenge in itself, and maybe songs are made out of that. I don't know.
What is kind of hilarious too is that we have such a thriving scene in a city that is so, I would say, anti-art, but is very anti-local.
It's focused on other things.
It's very much focused on, I mean, we live in an oil city, right? So we're very focused on our infrastructures in terms of what types of, I guess, relationships we're bringing into the city, future markets, things like that, right? We're not really so much focused on the culture and arts. So, yeah, I feel like what we could improve on the most in our city is maybe not so much more of a governance, but I guess more of a forum from all of these different bands. There needs to be a council, there needs to be something, as I said, not really governance, but at least a place where artists can come to and talk about their music, where they can come and discuss issues with money, or, you know, the venue hasn't paid them out, or what have you. There need...
It's a really deep one for the Starlight. I don't really know how to define it.
Or what is Canadian music to you, maybe?
I know there's a lot of really great Canadian bands, and it's really great to see that. It's a hard country to make music in, because it's really hard to tour here. And Americans, it's really hard to break into the States, right?
Yeah.
It's really impossible to get your visa, so it's really cool to see like how passionate people are here, you know, given how tough it is in the Canadian music scene.
Absolutely.
I mean, Canadian music is so many different things. Like anywhere you go in Canada, you experience a different kind of music. So I mean, you can get Canadian music is like everything. Pretty much any music you ever heard. You go all over Canada, you'll see some of the best musicians you've ever seen.
You've had to do a lot of your own business. Out of the fact that there's not other people out there to do it, or why did you make that decision?
I mean, it kind of came down to a sense of value that you internally as an artist, you got to recognize where you almost fit. If you were to fit into a regime of somebody else's ideal of what maybe a good artist may be or what good music is, and whatever contribution they feel they want to put forth, you have to know everyone you align yourself with has to have a similar ideal. And I find that it's impossible to recognize anything less than the fact that we are unique. Everybody has who sings has a different voice, a little bit different than that. And I was under the call that I wasn't really gifted into the way where somebody would see me and be like, that kid right there is going to make me $1 million. And so my vision had to manifest, and nobody was around to. I mean, a lot of people would give you advice. There's a lot of fellow musicians you can play with, and everybody's making do. Like